Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Well, a topic today, again, requested from the internet. Thank you very much. And this is for folks, we get a lot. People come in and say, well, you know what? I have a budget, a very limited budget when it comes to feeding birds. Do you have any ideas on how I can take care of my birds, feed them, nutritionally good seeds, not, and but on a limited budget, still be able to afford. So it's a great idea for a program. And today we're going to cover I'm going to food, water, and shelter, like I do in all bird feeding programs. And we're going to start with water because if you watch me, you know that I consider that the most important thing you can do for birds. Well, we have fancy bird baths. We have big concrete structures. We have the ones with heaters built into the bowl. We have, and every time you add a feature, of course, then the price is going to go up, and the quality of the materials, things like that. But a bird bath can be very simple. And this is just a plastic insert that goes inside of a ring for a bird bath that we sell, but just that insert itself, and a clay pot, the bottom of a flower pot holder, some that can be used as a bird bath. Now, remember those things like that. This is not going to crack because it's plastic, but the clay and those type of structures will freeze and thaw and crack. But you can also put a bird bath de-icer in this. Now, again, that's getting the upper end of budgets if you're on a low budget because they're going to have a thermostat in them and they're going to keep the water open. But if you can't afford the bird bath de-icer, then you just need to dump the water, the ice out of it when it's really, really cold and refill it a couple of times during those real cold days because the birds absolutely need unfrozen water. And in the summer when it's hot and dry, again, water's number one with me always. So, but I had customers in the store one time. The wife wanted to buy a nice bird bath. The husband was on he didn't want to spend any money and they were back and forth. And I said, well, an old trash can lid turned upside down with water in it is a bird bath. And the lady elbowed me in the rib and said, don't tell him that. I'll have trash can lids all over my yard. But, for the birds, they don't care what it looks like. They just want that source of water. So there's lots of ways to provide water on a limited budget. Now, feeding. And people say, I don't know, I can afford a bird feeder, but I still want to feed it. Remember, Grandma used to throw out bread for the birds whenever it snowed and things. Well, this is the equivalent of that. Bare patches of dirt in your yard make for a great bird feeder. And this is where I'll throw my millet or my ground throw out there, especially during the winter. But most of the year, I'll at least throw some of that out there for the ground feeding birds. But the cardinals like it. The mourning dove love it. A lot of the birds will feed off the ground. Goldfinches and indigo buntings will go down there and pick up seed. Now the limit, of course, is the seed will get wet and it will go bad very quickly. So you don't want to throw a whole lot out there, especially if you've got snow or rain in the forecast. But your patio, your driveway, your concrete. People throw bird seed out like that, especially when the weather's bad, on there to provide food for the birds. An open plate, just a piece of cardboard mounted up on some legs, just a homemade version. But these open trays, what they are great. Again, no drainage for the water to go through, which is why a lot of our feeders have mesh bottoms, and so it can drain out the water. But you can easily make up something like this, and then the same thing with that piece of plywood right there. If you want to protect some of that ground feed, you can build like what we call a lean-to, and that is you put one end of the plywood higher in the air, propped up, and the other one on the ground. That way, the rain or the snow helps protect the seed under it, and the birds will feed underneath it. So, just a really economical way to do it. And yes, there are affordable bird feeders. We have. And this is kind of our bargain line here that we carry. There's a peanut feeder, a Niger feeder, and a multi-seed feeder. But these are lower quality materials, and they cost a lot less. And of course, they're not made in the USA, so that brings down the price, etc. But if you're on a budget, we do have people. There are affordable feeders out there. Now they're not going to last very long. Typically, you're going to have to replace them every few years. But if it's something you want to try as a way to get started and feed on low budget, there are low budget feeders available out there. Now for seed. I get asked all the time, why is this bag so expensive? Why is this one so cheap or whatever? Well, when I talk about bird seed, I'm more concerned about the health of the birds and the nutritional value, and that you're providing the things that birds need, the higher oil, the higher fat, the higher protein count in it. Well, there's no single way to feed birds better if you're on a limited budget than just straight black oil sunflower. In every taste test or preference test ever done, it is by far number one most liked, received by the greatest variety of birds. Small birds like goldfinches can crack it open and they eat it all the time. And cardinals and blue jays come and grab it, and they eat it. So from woodpeckers love it. Black oil sunflower. So if you want to keep it simple, definitely, and they're always there's always deals on black oil sunflower out there. Now, you open some bag, if you buy some places and you open it, there's sticks and stems and things like that in it. And then some bags are very, very clean. Obviously, this is very, very clean. And that's what you want, because those sticks and stems and things like that are costing you money. So once you find a good, clean supply of seed, you like the Backyard Bird Center, you want to keep buying it from them, because we have ours from Des Moines Feed, and they're excellent at cleaning their seed and not having to pay for a bunch of sticks and stems. So the other really economical seed or grain is millet. I don't put millet up in my feeders because it does attract a lot of the sparrows, but it is a very economical way to feed your ground feeding birds. And you cast it on the ground, and the juncos love it, and all the winter sparrows, but the house sparrows do too, and the red-winged blackbirds, things like that. But just broadcasting it down on the patio or on a patch of dirt, it's very economical. Millet is cheap, and you see how tiny it is, and the bag holds a whole lot of them, that's for sure. But when it comes to buying bird seed economically, the bulk bags, the bigger bags, are going to be a better value. When instead of the smaller bags that they have to break down, and there's extra cost in those littler bags and labor to do it and things like that. But bulk bags, especially in the fall and winter, if you can store it, that is a more economical way to buy bird seed for sure. But whatever you do, avoid the junk filler mixes. And a lot of these, I hate to call them grocery store blends and things like that, but you look at the cheapest bag on the shelf of bird seed, and you think, oh, that's what I can afford. But what you're buying, a lot of the birds don't eat. And this is an example of what was left over in a feeder from a bag that someone had bought, which is mainly red Milo. But I'll put a link to my video. Maybe I'll put it up here. And that is where the nutritional value of bird seeds. And so you learn how to read the bag on the back of the bird seed bag, the label, and then it'll tell you what the nutritional value is, and compare that to a good bag of bird seed versus this. And your birds will be thankful, because it's better for them and helps them to survive winter better. And then bird feeders and suet. I thought this was last slide here. And this is, again, people making homemade feeders. A log, or a cut limb, a section of it with holes drilled in it. You can mush suet in there, and you can make your own homemade suet rather than store-bought suet to save you money. But also, one of my favorite is a peanut butter and cornmeal mixture, and I like to mix in some mealworms and raisins and things like that in it, and then smush it into these logs. And the woodpeckers love it, and chickadees, nuthatches, the tree clinging birds really, really like it. And it is affordable because they're so easy to make. And then there you go, food, water, and shelter, and kind of the lower budget avenues for you to explore to help you save some money on bird feeding. And your birds will be thankful for it. During those harsh stretches of winter, bird feeders are very important to birds. They're important to us 365 days a year. Watching the birds and out there. We know it's good for our mental health. It's actually good for our physical health too, because it helps us focus and gives us enjoyment. So bird feeding is always a topic here on Mark's Backyard Birds. Thank you for sending an idea for a program. If you would, you got any others you want me to talk about, send those in so I can put something together. Give us a like, give us a share. And until next time, let's talk birds.